Good morning, video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Dassler, and with me, as always...
Ben Vanel here. Rumours abound in the video game sphere.
Ooh.
But this week, we're talking about actual stuff that we've done and played and seen with our own eyes.
Not me. I'm here to address the rumors.
Okay.
It's official. I am exiting the console business. I will no longer be offering any help to friends going through hard times. No consoling from me anymore. Okay. That's the end of it. If you tell me about a problem you've had, I'm going to make it worse. That's my business now. Software only.
There has been speculation about that for a long time.
And look, I've got a business presentation next week, and my business is keep your business to yourselves.
Oh.
I am not emotionally bandwidth heavy enough.
It is a great time to be reading the video game news, because on one hand you've got the rumors are they've gone into production of the LCD screens for the Switch 2, and then you scroll down and it's like this big console giant might be going under and not making hardware anymore. Like it's all over the place.
Yeah. There's lots of stuff going on.
I was getting very worried that you were intimating you were going out of the console business, aka the Infinity Machine. But that will never happen.
No, I don't care how much money our business loses to that particular endeavor. It is a loss leader.
Yeah, sure.
Adam making the decision to make the Infinity Machine cloud only would really go against everything that the Infinity Machine stands for.
However, it makes the most sense and is possible.
Yes, it already exists.
Yeah, it's the smart business decision.
No. This is the long-term play for after the world falls. I'll be able to get a generator and still have every video game before 3 days after whatever event takes place. I'm clubbed in the head for water.
Absolutely, or radiation gets you or whatever.
In case you don't know what we're talking about,
the radiation of my Infinity Machine, of the number of consoles I've got running at the one time. There was not a nuclear event.
You go down before everyone else.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there's been big rumors this week about Microsoft and Xbox, the start of it.
Like a hall. A big room.
A big room.
Hey, a bigger room.
Oh, look at the size of this room.
There's been big rumors about, first of all, it was that Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Stars might be coming to Switch and PlayStation.
Was the big one.
Well, that was later. It was Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves, sorry. Might be coming to Switch and PlayStation, and then...
Switch it first, and then... but also this timeline's so convoluted that I've got to stop trying to get it right. Sorry.
So, it was that was like the initial rumor, and then Starfield was its own sort of reported on rumor that was going to be coming to PS5, and then the most recent update is that there's going to be a business update this week or next week soon.
I think they said,
It spread even further beyond that, where so these rumors as well weren't there are a lot of bullshit things on Twitter, and people are saying every single possible option so that they'll be right whatever happens. But
I feel like the thing of Hi-Fi Rush coming to Switch has been sort of being floated around for like 6 months or so.
At least a few weeks heavily too, and that wasn't that interesting because they've sort of done that before with like Ori, those games were
Cuphead and
exactly. So
someone like data mined it as well and found some like new T-shirt in there that's like the Switch colors or something.
I think we talked about it on here, and like it wasn't that interesting.
Yeah.
For the first time on this podcast, but so it was Starfield then, like you said, and then Gears of War and Halo were being floated
I didn't hear
internally.
Halo. Fuck.
And these are like from people who say they have sources who are journalists. Some of these things, so they're not just like rumors of like fucking Pikachu's gonna suck my dick or whatever. Like the sort of rumors you normally get on Twitter if you have the algorithm that I have.
There's certain websites too where once they're reporting on it, it does become a real where there's smoke, there's fire. It's like there's something in this. Maybe it's not quite to the extent that people are getting carried away and speculating, but something is happening.
The amount of leaks that come out of Microsoft in particular too leads to these pretty crazy levels of like internally they were having discussions about whether they could buy Nintendo. It's not that weird, but it's crazy for it to get out to the degree that it did, because once something reaches the public in that way, it becomes anyway. So it was then all of their first-party games might be published on other consoles, being the PlayStation and the next Switch. And then it was people talking about them exiting the hardware business. There's also been rumors about them just having recently decided to make a handheld machine, so they're making more hardware.
Right.
Is possibly it. Like things about maybe Game Pass will shift gears and not have day one releases, or bring in more tiers, and like the Call of Duty games will be on the higher ones and so on.
Yeah, because also the fact that there were recently those layoffs in there, so then you kind of tie that into it. So it's like, well, why would they, like, you know, if they weren't manufacturing hardware anymore, they wouldn't need those. Was it like 1,900 people or something that they got rid of?
Retail business people, physical media people. So
yes,
people are connecting the dots, I guess.
So then all of these things are swirling. Phil Spencer tweeted that they hear everyone, and there will be a presentation next week, a business update. Yeah, some words like that he used. Yeah, which
the future direction of Xbox.
Peculiar with the nature of what a lot of these rumors are, that they're reaching the point of, are they going to stop making Xboxes at all? Right. To not more directly address it and sooner. They also are in such a weird position with kind of what they do that gives so much fuel to like any version of this rumor. Like if this was something about Sony or Nintendo, it really could only be one thing, which is they're going to stop making consoles and just publish their games on other platforms, right? Whereas because Microsoft has the ecosystem of Game Pass, like it does, you know what I mean? Like there are so many more different areas for there to move in. It's not as like...
And xCloud being like a real workable thing that people outside of Australia can use.
Totally. But then at the same time, all of those things having not made money for ages by all reports. So like...
And they seem to have put a lot of stock into like just getting you to sign up to Game Pass. And they don't really care... They seem to not really mind where that is, whether it's through the cloud and it's just on your phone, or whether it's on your PC, or whether it's on an Xbox. They're not so focused on you just owning an Xbox. So they've sort of been like we've said this before, that it's like it feels like, you know, in maybe it'd take 10, 15 years, but you could get to a point where people don't own consoles anymore. Like everything is just streaming from the cloud and there is no hardware. It sort of seems like they are the ones being forward thinking about sort of starting to action that where they can, which again would make sense if they were to just go, you know what, the overheads of making these machines, we can do without it, and we can publish Starfield on the PlayStation 5 and start to make some of that money back that we spent on the acquisition of Bethesda.
It's also like, so firstly, it makes sense that there would maybe be big changes happening that were brought from above the Xbox division. Yeah. Because they've just spent so much money, so publicly had this big thing about why they're spending so much money. Yep. Well known to not be making that money back. Yeah. So it makes sense that someone higher up will go, hey, fucking come on.
Well, I think in the chat after we all collectively speculated about every possible option,
picked our jaws up from the floor.
But
I'd just seen a hot cartoon woman walk past.
Yeah. That's where I get my news from. Is Awooga News.
But I think like the most likely and the least, disruptive.
Sexy.
Yes. Option is that they just start selling their games on PlayStation and
I really
Nintendo
feel like the announcement is just going to be, because you're right, Adam.
We
like,
need to make more money, so that's the easiest way to do it.
They've spent so much money, and they also have that rare thing of like there is something there that's relatively easy, where they know they can get some money back, and that is like you acquired Bethesda, a company that has a huge fan base. This game came out that was like touted as being this really big thing. You could tomorrow just go, it's out on PlayStation 5 and make a bunch of money from that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's rare to have such an easy, not easy, but you know, like a clear solution there where you just go, we can push this. Okay, we thought we would be able to bring those people over into our ecosystem. It hasn't worked. We've paid a lot of money for this game. All right, easy. We can just sell it to all the people who want it, and we own this thing, and we can just get some of that money back. Like it's rare to have that, like a button like that you can push.
And they've specifically been saying that's their plan for Call of Duty and stuff that they picked up in the Activision acquisition.
Yes.
So why wouldn't that plan then also make sense for everything that they do? If, as well, I think it could be combined with... I'd be very surprised if they were getting out of the hardware business completely. However, I could see a pivot to, like, we make... what like the Steam machine was going to be, like computers that are console computers that are a living room box, because like they've wanted that for ages since the Xbox One, and it's what people initially got their hackles up about, was that it was the everything box in your living room, which people now want a lot more than they did 10 plus years ago.
Totally.
Yeah.
So like,
I would be surprised if this announced if they were getting out of the hardware business. I would be surprised if they said that now. Like kind of sort of like mid life cycle would be.
Yeah, they still got boxes to sell.
Yeah, if it was going to happen, it seems more likely that it would be a thing. End of the life cycle, they go, hey, look, no new announcement from us. We're out.
Maybe.
Like while you've still got the stock to get through, just seems like now would not be the time. If they were thinking it, now would not be the time to announce it. I don't.
The most like front of mind example for people is the Dreamcast and that happened really quickly at the time.
Right.
But the difference being that Sega would have not existed if they hadn't have done that.
Yeah.
They were running out of money, and so like had to do that. Microsoft has money, so they don't need to pull a ripcord that hard. I don't think, but I don't know what their view of it or what their setup internally is in terms of like, do we cut this division? Are they like, I don't know much about Microsoft's more businessy business and whether they cut products in the fashion that Google kind of does.
Yeah.
Whether like if this isn't what, because Stadia, I guess, was the most recent, fuck this.
Yeah.
No
one liked it.
Yeah, they gave that like a year.
And that was all the cloud stuff that I still don't think people are ready for, or that the technology is caught up to yet.
That's the main thing, right? It's just the tech isn't quite there.
So there's no telling properly what it is, because of course they haven't said anything. Those leaks that came out about them planning another like mid-gen refresh console thing, I could see that happening with a re-gearing of what the Xbox is. Going forward, we've got this new digital only, it's your home thing Xbox. Right. We get rid of the X and the S. They stop getting made because they've put both of those on like pretty big discounts over the last year, and apparently those haven't been selling through, so they just can't sell what they've got. Make the new thing. Here's the Xbox. This is the only Xbox going forward. We're stopping making the X and the S. This one's in the middle of them or whatever, and it's all digital and it's all Game Pass focused. And sort of like Sony does with PC releases, every PlayStation exclusive, other than a few, comes out on the PC a year later or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's the reverse of that.
Because they clearly view it as like, okay, we own this product, people come to us for it, but also at the end of the day, if we put it on something else, those people were never going to come over anyway, and we just still get a bit of revenue from it.
Yeah.
And they have to change what they're doing, because their plan to recover from the Xbox One was, we need good exclusives again, we're going to acquire these studios and have good Xbox exclusive, blah, blah, blah. And they haven't for like a decade.
Yeah,
had good exclusives because like every Halo game has been a disappointment, and those were the reason that the Xbox existed in the first place.
And the Gears of War franchise certainly did not maintain its popularity.
And then they stopped putting them out for a long time. Like Forza didn't do it. Starfield was a flop essentially,
right?
At least in terms of its reception, and I don't think it sold to what they projected. Stuff like Redfall and shit.
I guess that's the thing. If you were someone who was interested in Starfield, you could get Game Pass for a month and try it, and if you didn't like it, you just jump off.
And people who did do that did it on a PC as well. They did like it doesn't seem as though they sold a bunch of Xboxes off the back of Starfield.
And I think maybe the response to it was sort of like neutered by Microsoft's involvement in it and them having to push it and make it out that it was going to be the greatest thing that had ever existed, because they really needed it to be a win to sort of justify this acquisition. Like a world where Bethesda are a bit more in charge of like how it comes out on the marketing and everything, and it comes out on everything. Maybe it gets received a little better without having Microsoft do these presentations where they're like, this game is going to revolutionize the RPG. Like,
I doubt it. I think they would have done that shit anyway, and if it had come out on the PlayStation, it still would have gone the same. Because then the other ones are like Indiana Jones is later this year. That was the other one being floated for PlayStation release. And like, it's similar to what I was saying before about how of course they talked about buying Nintendo. Of course they're talking about what they should do with all these games.
Yes.
That being said, I doubt Nintendo or Sony are talking about that very often.
No, I mean, this is the thing with Microsoft. Like everything that they do in the last few years seems to be, it's just all these. They just the impression that you get as a consumer is that they're sort of all over the place. They seem to be very reactionary. These things kind of get leaked, and it just gives an impression in there that there's no like solid Nintendo and Sony, for better or worse, even if you don't love their output or agree with their decisions, it's like they seem to kind of like know what they're doing, and they stick to their guns.
They seem to have set a strategy at the start of their console generation, and they stick to it.
Right, and with them, it's like even the thing of going, everything is gonna. If you get a Series S, everything's gonna come out on it. Don't worry about it. You're not gonna be, have your legs cut off by having this slightly less powered console, and then they end up having to go back on that for Baldur's Gate because it's like the biggest game of the year, and they, it's like, well, we can't, it's have it on the X only or not have it at all if that's going to be your rule. So it's all these kind of things. They sort of are they seem sort of so reactionary on things leaking, and then they respond to that, and rather than just going gung-ho and going, here's the plan.
They're big, and they had a gung-ho plan. They said, they announced all these games. So like, we're making a new Perfect Dark. We've got Avowed, which is still coming. We've got this Fable game and all of that. And then they just fucking vanish into vapor after that. Yeah. Like that Perfect Dark one, there were reports of that getting fucked up and it's been rebooted and whatever, and it might not come out. And Fable, we've seen snippets of, but it doesn't seem to exist. And then
acquiring all these like good new developers who released a game that broke through, and then you don't hear anything from them for like 6 years,
and it's been years and years, and like it's two different Arcanes, but it's both Arcane. They put out Deathloop that's on the PS5 too, and then their first Xbox only game, again, I know it's a different studio technically, but it's Redfall. And like the strategy that they did have, that they've been talking about for years, hasn't actually fucking happened. They put out a bad Halo game that people didn't like. They've put out like another Forza game that who cares? Like it's not enough to carry it. And like Flight Simulator didn't sell Xboxes.
Right. People are just going in on Forza and Flight Simulator on Game Pass because
that's like if you have that stuff
but on
already.
PC, crucially as well. Game Pass, they're making their money if people are buying an Xbox and getting Game Pass and keeping it. Like that was what they wanted people to do. If they're having to pivot, which again we don't even know if they are, but of course it seems like it. Then it's because that's not working. And like there's rumors in every single direction, so it's kind of hard to know which pellet of the shotgun blast to look at. But
it's most likely that they're just going. They've been talking about selling their games on other platforms, and like what happened with something else, maybe Cyberpunk, maybe I can't remember. It was another game, but the people on the inside who weren't happy with these discussions, the potential strategy, they're leaking that because they're like, well, I thought our plan was to have exclusive games and foster smaller development companies making games for Xboxes.
It's my guess would be they are making new hardware, but different hardware that is a little more focused, or I guess a little less focused, if anything, that is essentially different formats of computer. And there will be a living room computer and a handheld computer because the Steam Deck's done real well. And people want their like fucking Roku boxes and shit. And if you can't
imagine that they'd be announcing this though. Like this may be a plan, but you're not going to announce this just because some people have tweeted about.
I think the announcement.
So they were planning to do this, but in 3 weeks rather than next week. This like business event thing. So it's not that their hand has been forced necessarily by rumors, other than bringing it up a bit. Is I think what's happened.
I think that I honestly think like the biggest thing of the announcement in a week is just going to end up being Starfield's out on the PS5 in July, which isn't that explosive of a concept. Like it's weird that it like even just that as an idea gets kind of turned into this like
it's explosive if you're one of the people who love Xbox and tweet at Sony and every time Sony tweets and is like, PS5 sucks. You know,
Right,
and there's
I
a lot
mean-
of those people on the internet, and this is where these rumors have been circulating.
And I mean,
So-
everyone kind of wants to be. Every company wants to have like the cult of something like a Nintendo, where it's like their brands are so clear, and that's the only place you can get them. So I guess if you're someone who's like a real diehard for the Xbox ecosystem, you want that. You want your IP that exists just for you, and that people have to buy into like that, world to be able to experience.
Yeah.
I think really simply too, there's a lot more people who are like, oh, well, I bought an Xbox, but the PlayStation seems better.
Right.
Totally.
You know, like how come
I can just play this over there now. 'Cause
Sony is better.
you could have been on the fence and the Bethesda thing happened and you're like, well, I like those games. So,
Yeah.
I guess I'll get an Xbox
that
now.
convinced
I've been
me.
waiting.
And I had to like shift over my account.
Yeah.
Now I've got like all the game. I was a PlayStation person. I got all these games tied to that account.
Yeah.
That were third party that I can't now play on this thing. Whereas
Or
if
you
you
were
just
a PC person and you're like, oh, okay, I thought that... I mean, it just means that you'd unsubscribe to Game Pass,
Right.
probably.
if Game Pass changed, but like I could see there being different tiers of it coming forward, and that there's a more expensive one that the day one releases shift to, and that maybe gets Call of Duty and shit, and the price that it's at now is like, and then you'll get it 3 or 6 months or whatever later. But I don't know if that's a good strategy. I don't know if that would happen. But
I mean,
that is what
yeah.
like all the Netflixes and shit have been doing
I
lately.
was
is
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say
yeah.
the
walking up
Netflix
that
example
ladder.
is not necessarily a successful one to follow. So
I think they're making plenty of money still, though, is my understanding of it.
I feel like Netflix is one of those ones like Uber where they're propped up by investment. I think that Netflix is a
don't know either.
because
money
I
loser.
mean I'm about to get rid of Game Pass, I think, because I've started just buying stuff that's on there on
Right.
Steam because I've got the Steam Deck now, and I know you can set up Game Pass on a Steam Deck, but it's only you've still got to be on the internet to play the stuff. Like I want to be able to like play the games natively on the Steam Deck. It just makes more sense to me, and I would imagine that's like a fairly common feeling as we move into the era of the Steam Deck and the Switch and being able to take your games with you.
On
So
all of those, like the Lenovo one, and there's 100 of those things. So what if Microsoft goes, well, we've got one?
or if they went, Game Pass is going to run natively on the Steam Deck. You can get it from the Steam store and you can download and play the stuff online for when you're on the go. Even just that as a move would make so much, when you've got all these people that are now in the ecosystem of the portable machine, making your service a little more palatable and easy to use for them. Even just that as a short-term thing would make a lot of sense, I think.
Because I can't see Game Pass showing up on a PlayStation or a Switch.
I think, as a genius.
I just wanted to fact check myself there. So Netflix has about $150 billion debt, and they make about $7 billion a year. So that this subscription model is not profitable.
Not for another, but come 25 years.
Yeah.
Because what's weird too is like talking about how these decisions that Microsoft make and the forward-thinking capacities of them. Their big presentation last year that we all watched, I think we all thought was like one of the better ones of the year.
Yeah.
Remember they had like, what was the one? It kicked off with like a little bit of Fable. It had all the Atlas stuff in it. I know a lot of this stuff is like a lot of these presentations. It's stuff it's games that are going to come out on everything. But just
Right.
the way it was paced, the stuff that was in there. I remember we all came away from it and were like, that was one of the better structured and paced. It had that cool looking that real like Louisiana bayou-y sort of game at the start of it. Like I remember
That's out next week.
Yeah, right.
And but wait, maybe I'm thinking of a different one. I am thinking of a different one. Never
Right.
mind.
But I just remember that we kind of all came away and went, all right, yeah, they got a bit of an idea of what they're doing. A lot of this stuff looks really cool.
But that's been the problem, is that's happened for years, and they're good at it, the promise game.
Yeah.
And then that stuff doesn't really show up. Where like, but then at the same time, it is also just a perception thing to some degree, because like all of the PlayStation 5 exclusives, there kind of aren't any. There's like the Demon's Souls remake hasn't come out on anything else other than the PS3 in 2009. And like the DLC for God of War Ragnarok, which will come to PC
out.
probably.
Right.
So
and
Horizon's on PC. And
Horizon's on PC now.
Yeah,
Last of Us
all
is.
the
Last
Naughty
of
Dog
Us 2
stuff.
isn't yet, but that's on a PS4. But like
Spider-Man 2 isn't yet, but
their
But it will
strategy
be.
has been
Yeah.
to put all of their stuff on the PC eventually.
Yeah.
So it's not like there are actually that many differences in the games available on a PC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on an actual Xbox, you can't get those games, so it does devalue that console slightly.
Yeah.
As well. So anyway, it's we'll know in a week or whatever, and I'll be interested to see like what it is. But yeah, I could see it being not as much as people are chatting about right now.
Yeah.
But then also, it would make complete sense if it was like, hey, here's a big title shift.
Yeah.
Like
We've
what we're doing clearly isn't working that well.
Right.
So why not just go? Yeah.
Yeah, why not change? Why
Go
not,
big.
Why keep throwing money into a furnace?
It depends
Yeah.
which direction Microsoft wants to throw their money, because I think it seems as though they've gotten involved, the higher ups above the Xbox division to some extent.
You can't
to me.
keep fucking around and losing money.
So it's either is the strategy like
Come to the office, boys,
Yeah.
and sit down.
Some bean counter coming in and going like, what the hell is going on in here? There's just like drawings of Banjo and Kazooie on the wall.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing in here?
Yeah.
where were they fucking 20 years ago? It'll be whether or not it's pull back, this is a waste, or invest more in this better direction.
Yeah, because I think when we've been talking about sort of overall, the industry and where it makes sense for like technology to go and stuff. The Game Pass philosophy and the cloud philosophy makes the most sense. It seems like where everything's going to end up anyway.
Every
That could
company
be-
has some version of it at the moment.
It could be such an on-paper thing, though, because maybe it just isn't actually playing out that way. And games are a weirdly outlier thing in tech too, where like when the PS5 and this generation of consoles were coming out, people were like, well, this is pointless. People don't want to play games on these anymore. In Japan in particular, they were like, people are done with this. It's all phones.
Right.
And then they sold crazy because it wasn't correct.
Yeah.
Nintendo have dabbled in having like a handful of current gen
There's a lot of
PS5 stuff like on the cloud because you can get a good enough Wi-Fi signal on the train over there to be able to play
Right.
Resident Evil 7 on a
games
Switch.
get like lumped in with the tech industry, and like it's different to fitness apps and shit and the trends that happen with those, and people project it along the same lines sometimes, but it's like Blu-rays shouldn't exist.
Yeah, they're
But
weirdly
they
between
do
like
because people have stupid preferences.
Yeah.
And like not stupid, but like they want a fidelity that people don't think they want.
Yeah, this is like entertainment. These are luxury items in the first place, and so people are going to want to experience them in certain ways.
Yeah.
And they don't want to pay subscriptions. People are getting absolutely fucking sick of subscriptions, myself included, where like everything is like that. So it could even be that just the subscription model doesn't work for a group who tends to be on the forward fringes of tech stuff as well. Video game people tend to be early adopters of shit and like very opinionated isn't the right word, but like particular about the stuff that they want, and you can't kind of sell them on shit that they don't actually really want. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
the Wii
I mean,
fucked it.
Again, when there is like it feels like a lot of stuff is going the other direction where, physical media was sort of looked like it was dying off, and then all of a sudden, like vinyls come back in a big way, which is like such a like they're so big, like they take up so much space, but people put a lot of stock into them, and like, a lot more like smaller games being able to be released digitally only, which makes them possible to be brought out. But then if a small indie is popular enough, there's like limited run games will kind of go the other direction and go like, now we're making a big physical version of this thing that was popular as a digital thing. Like
that's the other side of video game stuff, is that like, yes, it's all the like savvy shit on one side, but then also the video game industry contains consumers who are some of the biggest fucking like marks in the world and will absolutely gobble up dog shit, but they'll only do it 1 out of every 50 times.
Yeah.
And so if you're lucky enough to be the Power World or to be the Genshin Impact or to be not that these things don't have some elements of quality, I'm just saying the things that
there's a lot
take
of luck.
off
Yeah.
are no indication of industry trends necessarily. Like they can be outliers more often than not, and if you base a business around that, which they didn't, they based it around exclusives, which are bankable because PlayStation did it, even though technically they didn't have them.
Yeah.
But their
But
marketing is that
they did
we've
previously.
got them. They did previously,
Yeah.
and they do for a few months. And if you don't have a great PC, it's the cheapest way. Like it's the most.
And they're really good games.
They're good games.
That's the bit. That's the big difference. Is that
I
like
know, we're
even
talking
if they
so
do,
much about like, guess what the fucking problem is? Flight Simulator's your best game in
exactly.
fucking a
It's
decade,
like
cunt.
it doesn't matter if they
Like-
put out Last of Us 2 on the PC eventually a year later and God of War and Spider-Man. It's like you're already seeing it. Like when that like fucking dumb PlayStation Studios logo that was at the start of the Uncharted movie. It's like. You know, they sort of whip past all these characters and it reminds you like, oh yeah, they do have, they are getting into that sort of like Nintendo space of like they've got a little realm of these recognizable characters and it doesn't matter if that's also out on the PC.
Yeah.
When you see Ratchet and Clank, like your first thought is like, oh, that's one of the really good PlayStation games that's out there.
And
Totally,
like-
it looks fun.
There is a specific, experience that you get from playing a console game. Sitting on your couch, playing a really good game is a different experience to sitting at your PC. It's like, it may seem trivial, but it's like, yeah, there's a reason that people prefer it and they'll pay for it.
Definitely.
And like you say, if the game's good enough, I'm getting it on that console. I'm not waiting a year until it comes out on PC.
And there's also something to be said for just also the, talking about the PlayStation Studios thing. There is just something about their roster of exclusives, which even though, a lot of them are developed by different people, there is like a bit of a feeling of cohesion. They do kind of feel like they all, there is sort of a feeling of game where you go, that's a PlayStation Studios, that's a PlayStation exclusive.
They've spent years.
And Microsoft don't really have, it is this kind of like hodgepodge of acquisitions of like, oh, now what's under our umbrella? Flight Simulator, Forza, Starfield,
They've honestly only-
Redfall. There's no unifying kind of feeling to what they put out.
They had it twice, and they had it with Halo and Gears of War.
Yeah.
And they kind of, since those games stopped being of the level of quality or like cultural impact that they were in the 2000s, the business has directly followed the line that their releases had.
I mean, it makes sense, right? If you're a games company.
Yeah, it is so crazy to overanalyze it where it's like, oh, what went wrong with the Xbox One? It launched with Rise, Son of Rome, and like then Sunset Overdrive. Not that they're necessarily the worst things, but like, who cares?
Yeah,
and like the
because that's the
PlayStation
thing,
had
though,
the
is
Order
like-
1886 and whatever, but eventually it had Bloodborne, and then by the end of it, it had all this like. It
There's-
really.
I mean,
is
there's so
the
much
main
importance
thing.
in like having a mascot, having like a recognizable. This is what this company is, and when your biggest game of the year was a game where the protagonist is someone who is designed by you, the player, that makes it impossible to have an outward like this is Microsoft.
And Skyrim's the same though, and people love that game. It is just the quality of it. And people didn't enjoy Starfield, and they're right.
Yeah.
Like it's not good enough to be your only thing.
Yeah.
And then Halo wasn't before that, and like if it was 1 out of 3 in the year or whatever, then maybe you get away with it. But they've not gotten away with it many times, and that's why I predict the Xbox 2 is coming tomorrow.
Well, hey, enough about speculative rumors of things that might be happening over at Microsoft, because last week we were treated to a presentation of things that are definitely happening over there at Sony. They had a state of play just after we recorded last week's episode and just before we uploaded it. Very convenient stuff. But yeah,
Witching
big
hour.
45-minute state of play.
About that,
43 of which was Death Stranding 2 on the beach.
Yeah, do you want to start with that?
On the beach.
On the beach.
What a bad name.
On the beach.
I love it.
It's very funny.
I love it.
Sounds like a 1940s movie about someone waiting at home for their husband to get back from the war.
I love it.
On
I
the
love
beach.
it.
I think of the beach that makes you old.
Oh, yeah.
Because like the rain makes you old in it too, and the beach is where the rain is.
That's true.
I
Yeah.
don't really remember the story of Death Stranding. I realized as I watched this trailer.
And of course,
containing-
Kojima would be a big. He'd be devouring everything that M. Night Shyamalan
Sure.
puts out. So that's. I watched the trailer like not live after the fact. So like I knew what the title was already, and it was very funny to me. The little teasers all through the trailer where it's like,
Oh, yeah.
on the drawbridge. It was like it's constantly bringing up on the. Which was just like a little funny, like, no, on the, no, it's on the beach.
Yeah, which might be the weakest one.
They should have gone full infinite wealth. Have Have Sam Porter Bridges washing up completely nude.
I mean, close enough.
Yeah.
That baby's back, and he coughed up the fucking magic school bus that had been roaming around inside his body.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the little ship that you're in, you seem to be going to the rest of the world now.
Yes.
In a ship to connect more people.
Sam, you saved the United States, but you got to save the world.
I loved the beginning of this trailer. Just seemed to be like just a big slice of like the tutorial of the game, where it's her like going, now here's the ship where you'll have your base of operations and you can get your weapons over there, and feel free to walk around and talk to some of the other people who are in their rooms. It's like, why is this in the first look trailer of this game?
Leia Sadu
This
is
so
back.
dense.
Yeah.
She, I don't think, had those little hands on her shoulders.
No, they're
She
new.
did not. They're new.
And also has a low frame rate, alive puppet.
I love this guy.
Oh,
He's pretty cool.
Little Pinocchio ass.
I was a bit disappointed. Kojima obviously predicted COVID, but now he's reacting to it because the hands are like a little mask. They're a little surgical mask.
I love it. They're like,
guess so.
they're lighting a durry for her. I loved
Yeah, that
it.
was cool.
That's cool.
I want some.
Little
to be
puppet. I
clear.
love Little Puppet. Again, that's such a classic, like, weird Kojima. Why does he move like that?
The
It sort of
fact
doesn't
that-
make sense.
The fact that there will be some explanation
Yeah.
is sick.
And he's like, they set him up like, well, he's pretty dumb now, but he'll learn. So he's like kind of a little AI thing, but then
Right.
even though he's pretty dumb, Sam goes to put him on his little belt loop, like at
God
his
of
back,
War
and he's
style.
like, don't put me on your, hey, not on the ass.
Yeah.
I want to ride shotgun.
Yeah. It reminded me how much I fucking love the visual design of Death Stranding. Like,
Yeah.
This is the same thing where I think all of this is bad and I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like really liked Death Stranding 1, and I don't know why, because so much. It's not bad. It's just that it's so goofy and such poor decisions of like, why is this so long?
Again, it's
Right.
that.
Why is this so slow and boring?
It's that
Why does this
5%
make
of
no
magic.
sense?
You know, if this was
Yeah.
like just a random studio and it showed up in an Xbox presentation, we'd be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Little puppet man, get the fuck out of here.
George Miller is the next director. Hideo Kojima's
Yes.
trying to fuck.
Yep.
He's in it with an Australian accent.
Loved hearing that.
It'll be interesting to see because
he's a
there
good
has
actor.
been so much action over the last like year or two of people being in Japan and popping into Kojima
yeah.
Studios for a little photo op.
Getting their
and
scan,
it's that
yeah.
exciting thing to know how many of them are just like mutual appreciation jack-off sessions and how many of them are in the game. So Timothy Chalamet,
Right.
he popped up at
Did he?
Kojima Studios, yeah.
Oh, at the studio.
At the studio. Australian rapper Briggs
Oh yeah.
popped in there and got a photo with Kojima.
Yep.
I know there's Jordan Peele he's been hanging out
Yes.
with.
Elle
How many-
Fanning is in the game. Jordan Peele's that other game that he is making
right.
for Xbox.
Oh yeah. What was it called? That looked sick.
Something starting with an O, maybe. Don't remember.
Yeah, the sort of cloud one, weird horror first
The
person.
close-up faces
Oh,
trailer.
that's right. Yeah.
Troy Baker's back in this one, and he's the Joker
Shredding.
now.
He's the Joker, yeah.
And he's got the Mad Max guitar as well, which
Yep.
is very rich to bring George Miller in and go, can I also get the guitar from Mad Max?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some other reference that it's to that I hadn't seen, but someone pointed it out
Oh,
that
really?
it's like a very direct, some comic book or something has,
Oh,
someone
okay.
has like that guitar as a weapon. I forget what it is.
Hmm.
Anyway, there were a lot of long, seemingly just pulled from the game intro trailers
yeah.
and then little snippets of gameplay stuff, and all of those I was like, fuck yes, it was so
I
fun to
loved
play
it.
that game.
Yeah.
For something that is like, pretty hyped, like a lot of expectation of, I loved rolling out a 10-minute trailer where you get a bit of everything. You get a bit of, generally you would think the way this would go would be 2.5-minute tease where it's not really clear. It's a real,
Yeah, just
a little
cinematic,
taster.
yeah.
It doesn't really give you any idea of what it is. But like, I loved getting such and even like the little bits of story were like these long scenes. Like it wasn't just these like random cutaways. I loved just the acknowledgement of like, we know people are excited for this. We know people want to know what it is. So why thread this out over a year? Let's just give you a huge 10-minute slab right now.
I will say I don't think that was a lot of people's response to being told, hey, we'll have a 43-minute trailer for you, and then like 11 of it is Death Stranding. People like, fuck off.
Right.
But they are like that about everything. So that showed, and that's 2025. And
Yeah,
then
yes.
at the end of that little section with Kojima, they were like, and also, are you up to anything else? And he said he's making a new tactical espionage stealth game. It was called Sysint or something, Fizzint. They like pulled back at the end, and the name was there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No details about that, and that'll be years and years from now because he's already working on this and another game.
Right.
So, but he's doing another not Metal Gear in the future.
Yeah.
We also saw a bit of Silent Hill 2.
Oh yes. Yes.
And a surprise drop of a little mini game, mini experience. Silent Hill: The Short Message came out pretty much straight away, right?
PT. This is and PT was Silent Hill, so it's not like they're stealing, but they've done that. I haven't played that, and for some reason don't care. I don't care about this. I don't care about Silent Hill 2. I don't know why. They just are not something.
I've never played a Silent Hill game.
Me either.
I played the first one a bit.
Right. I think.
So you're the you're the prime audience, target
I'm the guy,
audience,
and I don't give a shit.
I don't know. It's just not apart from sort of like Resident Evil, I've never been a huge survival horror fan, so I don't know. Yeah, but I'll give it a crack when it comes out. Maybe it'll convert me. Who knows?
Rise of the Ronin, saw a bit more of that.
Not
That's
interested.
Out soonish.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
It looked quite stiff in the way I didn't enjoy Wo Long being.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is them again.
Yeah.
Team
I
Ninja.
just don't think I'm a fan of them. You know, like they have enough fans. They don't need me.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird because it's very Ghost of Tsushima / Assassin's Creed looking from like the traversal stuff they showed with like the wingsuit thing that you kind of get at the end of Assassin's Creed 2 or whatever it was.
Yep.
And then that really like stiff kind of thin looking combat that I didn't. But also incredibly hard to tell from a trailer how something will actually feel. But we'll see. That's out in March.
Right. Yeah. Also, Dragon's Dogma 2. A little bit more of that.
I'm looking forward to that game. It only runs at 30 frames per second target on the new consoles.
Oh,
interesting.
How very dare they?
Interesting. Retro.
But I'm stoked to play that one. It looks great to me.
Yeah. A remaster of Until Dawn.
Oh, yeah.
That was a surprise. That was one of those ones where, you know, in the back of your head, you're like, no, I'm 25 still.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, no understanding of like, no, that game's 9 years old now.
Yeah.
A remaster of Sonic Generations featuring everyone's favorite character, Shadow.
Yeah.
You interested in that, Tommy?
Not really.
Okay, well then no one is.
I hear Generations is one of the good Sonics.
Okay.
And I feel like every time they go, oh, we're re-releasing one of the good Sonics, I play it and go, this is shit.
Yeah.
This sucks.
I know.
Right.
The Sonic treadmill has never changed.
Right.
The impression I got of Generations was that people really liked that it had those like old school 2D bits, but then they've done Mania and Superstars since then.
That's
so
the thing.
rather
It
just
came
play them.
out a while before them and was their first kind of, we're going back to the Sonic you liked.
Yeah.
So I think it got a lot of
Bit of appreciation for
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Foam Stars, guys.
Oh, it's out today.
Foam
Yeah.
Stars is out today.
It's free on
Yay!
PlayStation Plus, right? It's like the monthly game, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For that.
Rollerdrome's
Similar.
free on there at the moment too, which if you haven't played
Great
Rollerdrome,
game.
get around that if
Great
you've got
game.
PS Plus.
Right, yeah. Foam Stars does not appeal either. So maybe PlayStation should also get out of the console business. It's like,
Metro Awakening. Let me finish. VR.
VR. I can't do
yeah.
that thing where you slap your fingers together, so
Yeah.
I just click like I'm at a theater poetry reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was one of two VR
Can you
games.
please deliver your response in slam poetry?
They had two VR games. Dad! Why? One of them looked like shit. The Morrowind looking one that was just some medieval combat game. Ignore that one. But then, this is a new Metro game.
Yeah, right.
Not a VR adaptation of one of the existing ones. It's a full game. It is a VR game coming out for the PSVR 2.
Yep.
How do you feel being so wrong?
Have you played that Resident Evil 4 VR mode yet?
Don't ask me about my personal life.
Have you played a Metro game before?
A little bit of 2033 years
Right.
ago, and I didn't go that far in, but
I've tried Exodus. I think that was the one that was on the PS4, and it's good. It weirdly, it's all, last week's bonus episode, I talk about the movie Stalker. Metro and the Stalker games are both inspired by that, and it's like Russian survival first-person RPG-ish. Hey, enjoy. I'm curious to hear about it.
A VR shooting game can work really well. Half-Life Alyx is one of the best games that there is. So I'll be holding it to that unreachable standard.
Judas.
Oh yeah. More story. Still looks like Bioshock.
Some extremely... Because I don't remember from that sort of first trailer, which is I think the only one we had until now, how much of the actual sort of first-person gameplay looking stuff was in that. Maybe none.
I don't think there was any.
Because this really had the, like, I've got a big, thick gun in one hand and my left hand has electricity on it.
Yep.
Proper Bioshock-looking stuff.
Yeah.
But, that could still be cool.
But hey... This cunny made Bioshock.
Exactly.
So he's allowed.
But here's the thing. He made Bioshock 20 years ago nearly.
So
hopefully this is not... hopefully this
retread,
is a progression.
But I'm one of the 4 people who still rate Bioshock Infinite, because it did get a lot of hype at the time, and then people like a year later were like, wait, I hated it. But I love it. It's one of my favorite games, and this is one of the few games that I'm allowing myself to get hyped up for.
I mean, it's been a long time coming, so it's cool to see it come to fruition and learn a bit more about what it is.
Go Roman on it. Be a big Judas apologist.
Oh.
Nice. Now, I can't remember hide nor hair of the rest, these ones that I haven't read out yet, so I'll just rip through them, and you guys stop me if you have any interest in the likes of Helldivers 2.
No.
That's out this week, and it looked different to what... The first one was like a top-down shooter kind of thing, or like isometric. This one was a little more third-person. But as we'll talk about later, don't know if I care about third-person shooters very much.
Right, yeah, co-op multiplayer.
Yeah, it might be all right. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not salivating.
Stellar Blade.
This I'm kind of interested in. Maybe this is sort of like Japanese action,
Korean, I think it is.
Right. I don't know. I don't know. I think I need to see more.
Yep.
Yeah, it looked like exactly like third-person sort of like quick-moving, like Vanquish type of shooter action game sort of thing with skimpy outfits. So, according to Hubba Hubba News or whatever it is you read,
Awooga.com.
Oh yeah,
Awooga.com.
It looked like Nier Automata without the irony,
right.
Sort of,
without the self-awareness.
Yeah, like I forget what
another game.
Yeah, similar to Code Vein.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think it'll play like that. But it might be all right. Don't know. No opinion.
This is cool. A little crossover between Dredge and David the Diver. Mm-hmm. And I think there's also some Godzilla shit is showing up in Dave the Diver.
The Dredge and Dave the Diver stuff had already happened a bit ago.
Yeah.
I think Dave the Diver was maybe like new to PS5 or something was why it was in this.
Oh yeah. I think that is it.
And you're right.
The Godzilla stuff was in there.
Yeah.
I always forget that the intro to that like Pharaoh Monch song is what I think of it as.
Oh yeah.
Is just the Godzilla theme. So every time they play that, I'm like, ooh, a needle drop. But no, it's
that is a good song. I haven't listened to that in
such a good song.
15 years.
I saw him do that live at Meredith, and as is the case with a lot of people with only one hit. Playing a festival, he ripped it out about 3 times.
Yeah.
Daryl Braithwaite style.
I saw the same one, and
good on him.
Whatever, man.
Fuck, that ruled.
He
that
played
was
3
so
great
good.
songs.
V Rising.
Oh yeah, that's out in early access already. I think.
Okay.
It's it's isometric.
And
the Diablo looking ass
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Legendary Tales.
That was the Morrowind looking.
Okay.
I say Morrowind because it looks as bad as Morrowind does today.
That's out Feb 8.
That looked like just absolute fucking shovelware VR bullshit.
Yep.
Of like, oh wow, combat in first person, dude. What are you smoking?
So hang on.
So
now you're saying there's
crazy.
too many VR games.
No, there's too. I'm consistent. There's too many bad ones.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Well, that's enough about games that are coming up in the future.
There was also a little Final Fantasy one announced for the week after. That,
Oh, yes.
that is
Yeah.
on like as we're recording this, and there's a demo for Rebirth.
Yeah, getting its
Yeah.
own
Yeah,
dedicated
State of play.
yeah, state of
thingy.
play,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
That's out.
Another PlayStation thing that they put out as well that I'll just talk about real quick. I watched the documentary about the making of The Last of Us 2. It's called Grounded 2.
Yeah.
Honey. Ground 2. It's fine.
It's on YouTube, right?
It
It's
is on
just out- it's
YouTube.
up- yeah.
It is on the Naughty Dog YouTube channel and the GameSpot Trailers YouTube channel.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I like...
I'll be
it's like,
damned if I'm giving any views to those snakes over at Naughty Dog.
It's like 2 hours long.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't watch it all in one go. And going between different devices you can watch YouTube on, I kept clicking on the other one when I go to keep watching it.
Oh.
So I've watched about 4 hours of this 2 hour documentary because I kept going back 10 minutes and being like, this is repetitive.
This truly is the comedy festival reviewer being like, yeah, it took me ages to find a park
Yeah.
outside the venue. 1 star.
It's pretty blandish, sort of, very marketing material
Right.
documentary
Yeah,
type of
right.
thing. But there's some stuff in there that was interesting, such as it was cool to have some pretty honest looking back from the people involved at the reception to that game, the negative reception from certain people at the time. That was interesting. Some crazy shit. I've forgotten all about the leaks and stuff myself, and that contributed to people being fucking mad at the game before it
It's a
even
weird
came
thing to
out.
focus
Yeah.
on in a documentary. Gathering up everyone in the office being like, hey guys, let's relive that trauma.
Well, because like Laura Bailey, who plays Abby, was talking in it about they sent death threats to her newborn son and shit like that. The people who fucking
That's fucked.
hate that game.
A newborn can't
that-
even read. What a waste.
I was going to say,
What a waste
the real
of time.
crime is giving an iPad to a newborn.
Reading them out to him at bedtime. Kill yourself, you little shithead. Anyway, why is he crying all night?
That was awful.
Fucking absurd behavior.
Yeah, and I remember because we were deep in a lockdown.
Right.
And,
I think I'd kind of forgotten all that just because it was like,
It happened in April
everything's
2020,
yeah, everything's going to shit. So this
yeah,
makes sense.
Such a negative time, but yeah.
Because they indefinitely delayed the game because of the pandemic, and then it released in June or something.
Yeah. That's right.
Because the leaks, people were they were seeing sort of bullet points and getting angry at there's a trans character.
Yeah.
There, obviously spoilers for Last of Us 2, but people just seeing that Joel dies was people just freaking out
Acting
and going
like
in a negative.
Actual lunatics about it, and there is still a contingency of the guy who lived in the jungle after World War II,
Oh,
Last
yes.
of Us 2 haters,
Yeah.
actively running subreddits about oh, I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time being the story's a little disjointed because it's sort of lots of flashbacks, so I felt that took me out of it sometimes.
It felt,
and then
yeah.
being oh, people are criticizing it, interesting, I wonder if it's the same, and then reading it, and then fucking 2001 A Space Odyssey, all these comments saying
Yeah.
everyone should die, nah dude, it's fine. And also, once you know the story and you play it a second time, I actually think it's really well laid out.
But it did turn into
Yeah.
that thing where, having your initial thoughts about it, you felt like it was hard to have any kind of even mild criticism of your experience.
Yeah.
Because then you were in that. Because I definitely felt on my first playthrough, I initially didn't like that I had made all this progress and built all this stuff up with one character, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I'm starting over again?
Yeah.
Why did I invest all this time and, resources into powering up that weapon and everything?
I think it
But
was
that's what
kinda-
makes it so interesting and powerful.
I mean, they were fair criticisms. I don't think you guys should have sent it to the newborn baby, though. That was a little
Who else?
over the line.
The next generation needs to know
Yeah.
what we want.
Who else am I meant to discuss it with if not my intellectual peers?
Okay.
A lot of that stuff, though, kind of on reflection, it's just the sort of game that doesn't happen very often where, it's made with, some short-term I think it's short-term like difficulties to
Challenges,
its approachability but that are necessary for the overall story.
Well,
Anyway,
yeah, I've said this a lot.
whatever.
Like hearing them talk about it, and someone describing it as that. So often in games, the challenge is just it's there on the screen. It's mechanical, and this game having a big part of the challenge being all like mentally in your head having to play as this person and want this person to survive, who has been the antagonist towards you for most of the game.
Yeah.
Like that is so interesting. A challenge that is happening like off the screen and outside of the game. Like, yeah, it's such a ballsy idea, and it I think they totally pulled it off.
Yeah. And, you know, everyone in that character should be male. Let me make it clear. in that game, I mean, not in that character. But anyway, so then towards the end, Neil Druckmann says some stuff about the future and says like, we're not working on the third part yet, but I've had a clear idea of what I think it should be, and it needs to be made in the same way that the first two were. But I think in that part of the documentary, that stuff was recorded last April or something.
Oh, okay.
So he could have been talking about the multiplayer game that has since been cancelled. That was the sort of in-between thing. So unclear whether Last of Us 3 is their next thing, or there is actually another game.
Yeah, because I did see some headlines. I didn't watch the 2-hour documentary, but I saw some headlines.
Yeah.
Didn't read the articles that said...
Well, please, let's have your input.
That said, like, Naughty Dog is not working on The Last of Us 3 as its next game. So
yeah, I think that was to my
leak,
understanding of
leak.
watching it was a misinterpretation of when that was filmed.
Yeah.
But I also could be wrong. Anyway, it was all right, and it was interesting seeing some of the behind-the-scenes filming stuff. I love that sort of thing. Everyone wearing mocap and shit.
Oh yeah, that's
They're all
cool.
pretty good actors, man.
Yeah.
It's cool to watch them leave. To watch them work.
Damn, that Troy Baker? Is
Yeah.
he in it?
Yeah.
He's in everything.
He's
Joel.
in everything.
Oh yeah, he's Joel, of course.
Well, speaking of good acting,
Yeah?
I've been sinking my teeth into a brand new game. Wait, what? I've been playing Persona 3 Reload.
That's not a new game. That's an old
full
game.
remake of 2000 and...
I'm not sure.
Six?
Five?
Damn.
Maybe
Five,
five
six?
or six, something like that. 4 was like
I've beaten
8.
the super nerd. I win the chase.
Super nerd, like running down that board and punching you in the face. Like, no!
No.
I've come up with a good segment idea for our live shows. It's called The Chase, starring Adam.
Yeah.
All right.
The super
You
Adam.
came up with that, did you?
Yeah, I came up with
We
it.
could
I've
do-
come up with Wheel of Fortune.
I overheard. I listened to Tommy say something.
Yeah. No, you
I
can compete
repeated
in the chase against the super Adam.
Yeah.
Good artists create, great artists steal.
Thank you.
Amazing artists admit to stealing.
Yeah. And God rank artists take art that they made 20 years ago and give it a big old spit and polish to make it look more like a piece of art that they made 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Persona 3 Reload, a full remake of Persona 3, bringing it more in line sort of stylistically with all of the kind of visual flourishes of Persona 5. It's got all the same, it's not quite to the same extent, not quite as stylized, but definitely the it's got your cool menus and your all out attacks, and
Right.
it's all of the it's, have you ever played the original, Adam?
Nah.
This is all new to me, and I'm having a great time with it. Loved
right.
Persona 5. It's such a cool idea to sort of bring this one up to more modern standards, and especially to it feels like 5 was like the big point that a lot of people got in on Persona, so sort of bringing it more in line with that.
I think this is, I might be wrong, the same or a lot of the same team who did 5
Oh, right.
as well. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's
As in the original game or the remake?
the remake.
Right.
Is the 5 people doing the remake,
So
or
they're
some
Sure,
of them.
sure.
their own style and
And I think that's why it's slightly more like that, is
Yeah.
because it's those people going.
That makes
"Well,
sense.
here's
I mean,
how
you
we'd
do
done
very
it."
much early on, like you meet.
I could be wrong.
Your best mate that you meet first day of school is like so similar to Ryuji. Like
Right.
he's almost the same guy. Big loud mouth, like goofball dickhead, like let's just go in there and kill them all.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the setup of this one is that similar to 5, you've moved to a new school, new town. Your school is on this little island, and you're living in like a student dorm. And every night after midnight, there's a secret 13th hour of the day.
Whoa.
Where most...
I'd notice.
Well, you would be a party member in this game in that case.
Oh.
Because all of the population get frozen into these coffins, and there's an hour of the day where these shadows kind of roam around, mysterious stuff happens. You quickly realize that you are part of an exclusive group of people who are immune to being frozen in this 13th hour of the day, and you're kind of free to roam around, and you're trying to work out what's causing this, what's going on in this, they call it the dark hour, because simultaneously during the days there is this outbreak of something called apathy syndrome where...
Brother, that's happening in the real world.
I don't want to look into it.
It was probably happening in the real world around 2002, maybe. When
Sure.
So, people all of a sudden wake up, they've lost all their enthusiasm, all their energy, and there's like no explanation for it. And so your little team of, you are recruited to go live at this dorm, and then you quickly find out that everyone else who lives at the dorm is part of this group that can walk freely around during the dark hour.
Right.
And
At
you're trying
Hogwarts.
you're trying to work out what the link is between the dark hour and this apathy syndrome.
Okay.
And there's a big, it's not kind of split up like Persona 5 is, where you've got all the different dungeons and you go into different areas. This is all, your sort of dungeons are taking place in the dark hour. Your school transforms into this huge tower.
Right.
And you're basically going up floors of the tower, fighting enemies, getting to sort of like a mid-boss, and then you'll kind of hit a point where you're like blocked off, and it's like, we can't go up any further. We got to wait for something to maybe happen in the real world that'll, open this gate. And so then you're in the next section, and it's all kind of visually different.
Which
like
is-
each I think it's 20-ish floors.
Right, because the stuff I know about this is that people disprefer this. Is it Thanatos? It's called
Tartarus.
Tartarus. The
Thotus.
Because it's sort of like Mementos.
I was gonna
in
say,
Persona
It is,
5,
yeah.
And that being the main dungeon thing. I've seen people criticize that rather than the unique dungeons in Persona 5, which I really
mean,
like.
that is the cool thing, sort of seeing that, as I understand it, this is the one, 3 is the one where they kind of really start to zero in on the Persona formula that you then see carried into 4 and really, really implemented in 5. This thing of the combination of the social links and everything. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense because it is on significantly older hardware, that it doesn't have the same sort of range. And yeah, so much of the fun of Persona 5 is finding this kind of evil adult in the real world and being like, oh, well, what's their mind palace going to manifest as? And like the kind of visual stuff that they do with that is so interesting.
Except for that one where it's like, my mind palace is space.
Oh yeah,
Mine's a spaceship.
mine's a boat.
I'm in Egypt in my head.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's like that. They do so much with those like visual
Yeah, for
motifs
sure.
and everything.
Yeah.
This is just more. Yeah, you're scaling this tower, and the sections look different, but there's no like great theme to them. They're just visually a bit different.
Right.
I was surprised by how quickly it gets you in there as compared to Persona 5. 5 felt like it put you into that first dungeon, did like a little bit of tutorial, then takes you out and gives you heaps of story. This is like a good maybe hour of setup and sort of cutscenes and stuff. But then the first time it drops you into Tartarus, I was able to get up to the bit where it like blocks you off, like on my first go.
Yeah.
So I was able to just go and do a full 20 floors, and it is doing little bits of tutorial, but it's not kind of kicking you back out.
Right.
To the point where there's still not, I haven't really seen a ton of story other than just you've sort of got your 3 party members to start with. There's like one other fight that I've sort of done outside of Tartarus, like in between the sections. And then, you're doing during the days, you're you're getting a job to earn money and build up your stats, and you're forming your social links with all the different people around town, and just like I kind of really felt like this coming out right after Like a Dragon would kind of like suffer in comparison because they're sort of similar-ish enough.
Yeah.
But I just forgot, they are so different. Like that loop of Persona of like how you divvy up your time during the days, and just the visual style of it, and the mechanics of the combat, the like knocking enemies down, doing your all-out attacks, knocking someone down and then being able to like pass the turn off to someone else on your party that might have the elemental advantage over the enemy. All of that stuff, it's so slick. It looks great. It is, I really recommend it if you've enjoyed Persona 5. I also think this would be a good jumping in point if you've not played a Persona and you like a JRPG. Yeah, I'm loving it. The music is great. It looks amazing. The voice acting in English is all great. I sort of really felt like I would play a little bit of it and then it would end up taking a backseat to Yakuza, but I'm feeling myself just like, really drawn into it's a cool setup. Group of school kids. There's some paranormal into whatever you want to call it. Not dimensional, but mystery that you're all trying to solve. It's such a good hook, and it's like, I really like this. I felt like it might suffer from playing it in the shadow of 5, like something that has come, so many years after, and they've clearly like tightened it and been able to do a bit more with the story. But it's a cool setup. The secret hour of the day where some weird evil shit is happening. What's going on? You've got one of your teachers is in your party and he's in a control room kind of like talking you through what's going on, sort of like helping you solve the mystery. It's great. I'm really, really having a good time of it. I'm like, I think about 9 hours in or so. And once it is that repetitive thing of, you're running around a dungeon, you're doing a lot of the same stuff, but it's similar to Like a Dragon where, it is very much a loop of the same kind of, you go do this, then of course this comes up. But when it looks great and feels good and is just such Moorish combat, it's it's really, really fun. I'm really, really enjoying it.
Cool.
Big thumbs up.
Okay.
I want to play it.
Well, Buffy the video game, basically.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Infinite Wealth, I've been playing a lot more of that. The Dondoko Island.
I feel like we could almost do a whole like new review segment on just Dondoko Island.
Yes. But honestly, we could just say it's Animal Crossing because it
is.
I assumed that philosophically it would be, taking that style of game and it's a little mini game separate from the running around doing combat, but it is like it's literally Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
like you press down for. I mean, you have a baseball bat, not an axe, but like down for that, right for your bug catching thing, left for your fishing pole. Like this is
kind of like what we were talking about with Power World, how I felt like it was so egregious in its visual design.
Right.
And this is like, this is, they do this a lot in the Yakuza games. It is doing mechanically, it's just ripping off another game.
Well, Pokemon's in there too.
Exactly. But it's doing it with its own, its own flair and its own justification for in the world, where you're like, it comes off as more of like a loving, the people who made this game, they're like, we love Animal Crossing, and wouldn't it be funny if in the middle of trying to bring down an international crime ring, you end up meeting a dolphin who takes you to a little island where you're smashing up bits of rubbish with a baseball bat?
Yeah. But it's super, super fun. I'd heard, and a bunch of reviews mentioned like people got lost in that part of it. Like they just spent like 10 hours just playing Dondoko Island, and I didn't get that. Like I enjoyed it, but it is as repetitive as Animal Crossing is as well.
I think I'm enjoying the story so much that I just was a bit. I can see myself coming back to it eventually when I hit a bit of a wall with the story or whatever. But I kind of was keen to just keep sort of for the moment pushing on. It is annoying to me. I don't think this is a fault of it, but I got up to this bit and Lauren famously sunk days of her life into Animal Crossing, and I wish that you could just boot up Dondonko Island as its own like separate thing. So I wish I could like start her own save file that is like just Dondonko Island, because I don't think she has any interest in the rest of the game. But I could see her getting into like because you do get a lot more like real world items to build. You're trying to build up a resort.
Exactly, and I do like that specific goal of it more than Animal Crossing, which I haven't played all of them, but it seems to always just be like, yeah, you moved here and now you're helping build up the town.
Yeah.
But early days you get a couple of
yeah.
tasks, but this does seem to be kind of leading you through it a little bit more.
Yeah, and having that goal of like, it's like a theme park sim or whatever, or a zoo tycoon, like,
because you get over there and
building this up, and you're trying to increase the popularity and the appeal, and
the setup is you get over there and it's like a down on its luck resort that's just gone to ruin.
Yeah, because the pirates keep dumping
the
waste
pirates
there.
keep putting their rubbish there.
Yeah,
so you have to clean up the rubbish and then also kill the pirates when they show up to dump more rubbish.
Yes, yeah. Great setup.
Yeah,
but and mechanically it's great. I actually kind of think it's more to my taste than Animal Crossing in terms of like the menu system and the resource collection and all of that stuff, and just visually I think I prefer it.
It is funny too that the controls kind of all change when you're on there.
Yeah.
Like your combat is real time when you're fighting the pirates. Like you're not doing the turn-based stuff. It is weird that I hope they make a little separate download of it that you can get. Like
how Inscription had the card game as its own thing, just like. But also, they've always done like massive mini games within the Yakuza games, and that's. But I've also proceeded through the story a little bit, and it's still good, and it's still weird and quirky, and has a strange emotional hook that is legitimate.
I've changed classes. I'm now smashing people up with a surfboard.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I'm keen to play more. I haven't played any more since last week.
It's fucking great. I reckon. I've dipped into some other stuff. It's not something that's like fully got my attention, I guess, because I know it's so big and it's going to be such a long gameplay experience. But I'm sure finish it by the end of the year.
It is a nice little one to just kind of. I feel like anything turn-based is a lot easier to kind of come and go from, because there's no like, I feel like the Spider-Man games, anytime I've left them and then come back, it's like, what fucking combo of buttons do I push to put this guy into a web? Whereas like, you can give it a month in between Persona sessions and be like, I just select this guy and da-da-da.
Oh, high school, that's right.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Girls are hot.
It's funny that, it's Persona. You're playing Persona, which is like, it sounds like a pretty traditional, like as much as Persona 5 was like a twist on traditional JRPG stuff. And then you get to go back into Yakuza, Like a Dragon, which I really do like the change up of the gameplay to be more about positioning, and you can like I'm noticing a lot with like the boss battles and stuff. Like if you can knock a guy back into one of your other teammates, getting that extra attack,
and lining it,
special abilities are like go through. If you can position yourself right, take down 5 people at the same time.
If you line up a thing where you get to hit someone into another enemy. Just feeling like, and that is the funny thing about getting so used to that. I think I was like 13 hours in, and then starting up Persona, and immediately the fact that in Persona you have no option of, you've got like a guard button in Yakuza, where if you like time a button press, you'll like significantly reduce your damage. Not having that in Persona is driving me crazy, because I feel like I'm fucking up every time I get hit. And it's like, no, I just got to remember I didn't have the option of doing anything here.
Yes.
This isn't a failure on my part. This is how the game is structured. But I'm still instinctively, like, as they're coming for me, I want to keep that muscle memory intact for when I go back to Yakuza. So I'm just
You're just backing out of the game every time.
I'm fleeing every battle.
Yeah.
Getting no experience points whatsoever. I
have been playing some demos. Steam Next Fest launched a couple of days ago, and
do they do this like twice a year?
Maybe twice a year.
Yeah,
it feels like it's regular.
Yeah,
definitely. It's maybe a seasonal thing, but I always try and go in on the ones that I've heard of, and then like just scroll through because there's there's hundreds. They always put up hundreds. And just any of them that take my eye, or some of the more popular ones.
More than ever now as well, with like Sex Detective 5 and all of that sort of shit that's on Steam now.
Yeah, yes. I'll check Steam most days, and yeah, like just the top selling. It's like I can't. This isn't. What am I looking at here?
Horny Baker.
A bunch of hentai.
Yeah, nothing worse than like
My octopus teacher.
yeah, recommended for you. Panty Simulator. It's like, all right, just because I've downloaded 2 JRPGs in the space of a week.
But this is sick. Like this is that sort of indie highlight space that, you know, it's gotten so fragmented and hard to find, you know, great games. Certainly, I don't think the games media is doing as good a job as it used to.
I kind of think it's a shame that this...
We're them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shame that this only exists on something like Steam. Like, it would be great if
exactly.
every storefront had their own version of this, of just like, hey, here's a week where we're just going to flood you with demos of cool stuff that's coming out.
Xbox has at least done that in the past. I don't know if they do that. They have had their like indie showcase stuff.
I was going to say that like in early days, Xbox was a big champion of digital only indie games.
360 era.
Yeah.
You get some absolute dog shit on there.
I guess the Wii did as well. But anyway, I feel like this is the place to find stuff now.
It is very like intoxicating being able to scroll through a big list and just be able to go bang, 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 just get whatever you want. It's cool.
And there's stuff that stuff that I had heard of that you're just like, well, fuck yeah, I'm going to play a demo of this. But I played some stuff that I had not heard of, just going off how it looked. I played a great city building game called Synergy, which I mentioned to you guys before, has the worst name of any game. It's so fucking bland.
Yeah.
Synergy.
Yeah.
Synergy.
It's a kind of like a Sable looking,
illustrated,
cell shadedy kind of city builder thing.
City builder thing. You're on some sort of alien planet, and it makes sense because the sort of ethos of the game is live in harmony with the environment. Live with synergy.
What if synergy was spelt SIN?
Oh,
dude,
brother, that'd be appropriate for me.
What if it was called Fuck Doctor?
Oh,
yeah.
I already downloaded that one. That's right. I was just getting all those recommendations. But yeah, it's a pretty classic one. You know, you start off with a few people. You got to like treat some of the water, desalinate it, detoxify it. You got your little water tower. You got your little, here's some plants. You got to, but it's less like set up a farm, you know, or like the very traditional style. It's more like, decide how often you want to pick berries because the berries will regrow if you don't fully, you know, strip it bare. But you can strip it bare and you get more resources, but only in the short term.
That's why it's called simpatico. You've got to
Ooh.
combine your efforts with nature.
Okay.
Get it?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd call it tongue cummer.
I'd probably have been more interested.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
a shame
it's
when
a nice, cute city builder. Cool, all right.
Just when you can see it, like you can see that it's going to launch, and it doesn't matter how good it is and how much good press it gets.
Yeah.
Just if it's not a grabbing title, then you can just sort of see the future and like it's going to just pass people by.
Yeah, and it's like, sure, you want to emphasize that point, but it's just boring. Like Surviving Mars or something like that. Like that's a similar game, and it has a more interesting title. But
Richie Rich.
Ooh.
That's a good ass name.
That is a good name.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, the Sandlot Kids.
Yeah. Now we're talking. Mr. Deeds.
Okay.
Yep. What's he about?
Big Daddy. But I love it. Like it's good. The loop is really cool. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's like a relaxing, calm looking and feeling game, but they've thought everything out really, really well. And you're like assigning certain people to things and build. It's like the loop, the interconnected sort of gameplay stuff is great.
Yeah,
I'm gonna buy this game and play it.
Cool.
Like it's really, really fun. So that was my first one that I had to dip in on. Not something for everyone. However, this other game I played, Balatro.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking
titles.
Balatro.
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 Weird name though, because basically it's like what if poker was gamified?
Right. Is this an existing like type of card game or whatever? It does sound like one of those names like Rummy Cub or whatever that.
No. Well, I mean, it can't have unless it was a video game, because this is like you're not playing against someone, you're playing to hit a certain score.
You're playing against the house.
You are playing against the house.
MD. House MD.
How's my dick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good. Thank you for asking.
You get dealt heaps of cards, like 8 cards. Or something.
I'm sorry.
I definitely expected a
Yeah,
way
when you
bigger
said
number
heaps,
than
8 was not. I was thinking, I was wanting double digits minimum.
Oh, okay.
Minimum. I really thought we were talking like 30.
Dude, you get dealt fucking an unmanageable number of cards.
Fuck, it's a high temperature today. I'm boiling.
Oh, shit,
Must be 8 degrees outside.
I'm going to have to count all these easily on my fingers.
Well, it's bigger than a poker hand.
Okay, sure. Sure.
You get dealt, something like that, and but you are tasked with choosing a 5-card hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sort of at the start, it's very simple. You've got a goal of like $200 or whatever, 200 points. Each card is worth a different number of points, and then if you pick a hand with, like a 3 of a kind or 2 pair or full house, you get more points and like multipliers and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
This is like, what's that dice one?
Yahtzee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit like Yahtzee.
Yeah. Which is a little bit like poker. And so you will have a certain number of hands that you are allowed to play to try and hit this total, and you'll have a certain number of discards. So you can, as in like a round of discards. So if you got your 8 or 9 cards and you're trying to you've got like 2, and maybe you want to try and get a 3 of a kind or whatever it is, you can discard a bunch of cards, and that counts as like 1 discard, and you get maybe like 3 in the whole round.
Yeah.
And you just basically go trying to choose your good hands. You put it up, you play, it goes bing, bang, boom, calculates your points, adds that to the tally, and you're trying to hit, your total.
Yep.
And then you'll finish a round, and if you succeed, you'll get some money. And it'll be like how many rounds spare you had. Having hit the total, you get like a $1, $2, $3, whatever, and then it'll show you like a little deck building marketplace where it's like you can buy a Joker card, and this Joker card will sit up in the top permanently, and it'll apply some persistent like multiplier for hands that contain hearts or whatever like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to buy the Joker card if I already am somewhat like the man himself?
Adam, would you stop being so serious and explain why it's happening?
Well, my father was a dumbass.
Okay. But yeah, it has that sort of Slay the Spire inscription deck building thing of like acquiring these special cards and these multipliers and stuff like that. And then just like the tallies, you got to get higher and higher. I got up to a point where like it's like a boss, and it's like your first like 9 cards or whatever are dealt to you face down. So you're like, okay, well shit, I'm gonna just randomly choose some, and then if you play some, the next ones you get a face up, and you're dealing with these sort of challenges as you go.
Yeah,
and it's very addictive. You only have to know the basic mechanics of poker to be able to get involved, and you're sort of like strategically choosing what you buy in the marketplace. I loved it. I'm gonna play the hell out of it when it comes out.
Yeah, this sounds cool.
Yeah,
I like the style of it too.
Balatro. Don't know what the name means.
It sounds like one of those names that used like very 80s board game type of thing where they just called them like Gibapas.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you want to play Gibapas? Like, what the fuck is that?
I actually would love to play Gibapas. Gibapas sounds like a name of a game that George's dad would have invented on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're playing Gibapas!
Something in the middle pops up at some point.
So Balatro, and these are all obviously on Steam, and the demos are free, and check them out if you want to. I played another game that had, I don't know if this was part of some showcase or I just saw the trailer on Reddit or whatever. Indica, it's like a scary nun game.
Okay.
And the trailer is very like surreal, and there's like little people jumping out of people's mouths and shit.
Oh no.
But the demo was not very good. it drops you into just like a slice of the game. You're like leading some guy around who's like got a sore arm. You're a nun, and it's
like as in the tool a saw, or
What?
his arm is in pain.
oh, his arm is in pain.
Right.
She's the nun. It's like starts with a cutscene, and he's like lying on the ground, and he's like, "Oh, my arm hurts," and she's like, "Yeah, might have to cut it off. Here's a needle," and she pops him. So the world is kind of interesting. You're like riding around on this steam-powered motorbike.
Okay.
Nice.
And this guy is just like, oh, I need to get help, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'll take you to some help, and it's all very like, it's Unreal 5, but it's very low polygon, like PlayStation 2 era looking kind of game, third person, and it feels sort of like a Resident Evil. You're looking in like shacks and stuff, and you're trying to interact here. Oh, open this cupboard. Is there a key? Is there a thing? I'm going to light this with my torch. But I also just like, I think it just fucking bugged out or something. Like I just got stuck standing in one position and I couldn't move and I couldn't do anything. So it has the feel of like a Mordhau or like like indie, low budget horror exploration sort of survival thing.
Right.
But the demo just didn't work.
No,
so that's a shame.
right. I feel like there's a lot of that type of game too.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Yes. I was taken in by that trailer. It was a pretty cool, well-edited trailer. And maybe I'll give this another crack and it'll not fucking shit itself on me. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed by that. I also downloaded the Pacific Drive demo, but that is out soon, and I'm definitely going to buy it and play it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that soon. I'm
Yeah,
keen for that one
looks
as well.
cool as hell.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that look really cool.
Well, I mentioned
brother.
before that I'm a pretty twisted guy.
Yeah.
Somewhat of a jester.
Okay.
A guy who is dead from the previous games
Yeah.
of the Rocksteady Batman verse, the latest of which is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League,
Yep.
which we got codes from Warner Brothers for full disclosure. And here's some more disclosure. It's boring.
Here's even more disclosure. I didn't even open my email that had the
noticed
code
that
in it.
email
I
was
was
quite
like,
bold.
I was like, even we were talking about it last week, Ben, and you were like,
Yeah.
You know what? Getting it for free is good because that's the only way I'm going to engage in it. That wasn't enough for me because you know what? Time is valuable.
Well, yeah,
and
you had
sinking an
a
hour
game
into
you wanna
something that
play.
I'm not going to enjoy.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I'm ready for this game to be out of the fucking news cycle. Honestly, like I'm
Alright,
sick
well,
of hearing about it.
This performance review has maybe called up a couple of things that we need to talk about at another day.
No, after today, after this segment of the pod.
Yeah, it is that is my feeling about it at this point. I haven't played the whole way through the story or anything, but that time thing, that is this. There are a lot of games that are like this. So it is a third-person squad-based shooter
Yes.
with multiplayer capabilities that is positioned to be an ongoing concern for them. That being said, there is a pretty normal kind of single-player narrative story
Yeah.
with main missions and shit throughout. I haven't gotten to the end of that, and I'm under the understanding that it maybe doesn't end satisfyingly due to it being a live service type of thing in the future. But
I'd read sort of, I guess this is true that people were like, oh, it's like always online and stuff like that. You don't need... So I had apparently let my PlayStation Plus subscription lapse. You don't need that to just play this game. You can play it with bots, with AI companions, and you don't have to be tied to any of that stuff.
yeah, I haven't
fine.
played it online with people at all, but you've got all four of you in the squad at all times, which is Harley Quinn, Deadshot, King Shark, and the worst fucking character I've ever seen in my life, Captain Boomerang.
Why do they keep putting him in the Suicide Squad?
I
I actually like what they did in that James Gunn movie.
I hate this cunt.
I fucking hate him.
I really, really don't like a goddamn thing about him.
I'm going to throw my boomerang at this thing because I'm a bloody Australian.
Yeah, every time he's like, oh, I owe the Penguin a tinny.
Yeah.
Fuck up, cunt.
Yeah. It's an annoying voice, regardless of.
I
Just
hate
as
the
you guys are talking, I'm
performance.
just picturing that email still being in bold and feeling like, hell yeah.
I hate the performance. Well, because
Yeah.
I'm saying this because I am surprised by how fine a lot of it is. Like,
Yeah, this is my what's the word? My most surprising game of the year, my least disappointing game of the year.
I
I expected it to be bad and shitty and not fun and hollow, and I actually really enjoy playing it despite myself.
So I think it's maybe you're having the thing I had with Gotham Knight.
Oh yeah.
Whenever that was, where because I don't think this game is good.
Yeah.
I'm not having fun playing it because like it's a third-person shooter. Each of the characters sort of plays somewhat differently, mainly in the way that they move around.
Yes. Mhm.
They've got different types of either swinging or jetpack or whatever to be a little anthem-y type of movement where you can kind of go in three dimensions. I don't like the way that stuff controls for any of the characters, though. Really,
I like Deadshot, and I will say I only like playing as Deadshot.
I like King Shark,
Right?
And because his is fairly simple, you can jump up with. So they all use a combination of L1 and R1. Like Harley's is like R1 will swing on like this Batman's thing that she stole.
Yep.
And
On
you
this
can do
Batman's
it once, and then you get a meter recharging unless you dive towards the ground, and then it'll recharge quicker. And then you can do it a second time, and it'll get slower recharge after that one. So you can only really do it twice. But then the L1 is a grappling hook as well, and it's all just switching between them isn't fun. I've only played for like a few hours, but because they control similarly enough that they don't feel fun and different in a fun way, but they control differently enough that they feel confusing in an irritating way. I've not enjoyed that.
I chose and stuck with one because I just dislike the others, but I guess if you are playing it in a group with people, you will have your assigned character and you won't change, but I don't think it makes sense to be changing character.
Which is disappointing. Like, that was the big thing about this game that became clear that they were going in the wrong direction with the opportunities that making a Suicide Squad game presents, where, like, why, other than the multiplayer aspect, even have these 4 different characters if they're... Because the main stuff you're doing with all of them is just regular third-person shooting. Yeah,
big open world, vague story of, like... The Justice League have gone bad because of Brainiac Man has captured their brains.
Same thing from Injustice 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the evil Justice League who are under mind control, which makes them... I don't know how it works in like the comic stories of Brainiac and stuff, but I am finding that like the story... Well, we'll get to that in a second, but one thing I'm not loving about the story, it's like Green Lantern and Batman and all of them, but because they're evil now, they're not themselves. They're kind of like douchebag versions of themselves in this way.
They haven't had a Snickers yet.
I guess. You could put it that way.
Yeah, they're hangry.
When
So
you
it's
say
like-
the ending's unsatisfying, is that what it is? They just feed him a Snickers.
There's plenty of games where Batman talks to villains and he's like, Harley, you loser, or whatever he says, you know. I understand the character of Batman so well, and you can tell that I can make this comment. But like, there's this weird smugness to all of them because they're villains that is odd.
Yeah.
Anyway, so one thing I was going to say about the switching between characters, in different missions, one of them will have let me do this mission. So it'll give you a little incentive if you're playing on your own to switch between them. But I've just found that not controlling well because the main third-person shooting is really... I don't like it. It's... Everything is so small and distant. Yeah. Everything is... All the enemies you're fighting are so similar and dull. Everything that you're doing is so, like, rote that you just have played a ton of games like this that do everything this game is doing better. So, like, what's the point of this one? Is like the ultimate feeling. Yeah, for me.
And I said in the chat, I think as well, like it's a bang average game, but it's such a wasted opportunity, or it's just wasted potential from a company that made some of the best games ever.
Because there are flashes of that, excuse the pun, of that there too. You get little green lanterns of it every now and again where like there's moments in the story and there's bits of the cutscenes and like the look like technical look of it is good.
Yeah.
It looks good, but then like all of the purple little enemies with numbers flying off them, I'm just not loving that.
Yeah.
I don't think the shooting feels especially bad, but it also doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Like there's weird stuff where like, so your shields are regenerated by, it's sort of like Doom Eternal a little bit, where you shoot the kneecaps out of enemies and then go up and melee them and you'll regain shields.
Yep.
So that it's got ideas, but then in practice, that's actually just sort of annoying for me.
Yeah. And I've not experienced like a situation where I'm like actually running out of shields and health at this point either. Yeah, it is odd because I can't like purely playing as the one character who is built to have guns and use guns well, and also he has a jetpack. It's like, oh yeah, this is fun. This is like, what if I don't know, Gears of War, you had a jetpack or something like that.
Slightly more 3D Division or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And playing as this one character where it makes sense to have guns and like a sniper rifle and shit, it's kind of fun. Like you're jetpacking your way around this, you know, big open city that's like in ruins and it's under attack by aliens, and you're landing here, or you're like, you can do a little slide move when you hit at the top of a building and then jetpack off again. Like that traversal stuff is fun with one of the four characters.
Right.
And then hitting a little cluster of guys and bang, 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 knocking them out. When using the melee with this guy with guns just means you do a little cartwheel and a little like close up shot. And I think, yeah, that gets you your shields back. There's something about it that's kind of fluid and fun when, for me, you're not having to interact with any of the story or any of the writing or any of the stuff that is, you know, linear and curated, which is a bad sign.
Because I'm finding
video game.
that the story stuff is above where I thought it would be.
Right.
I guess, because like I don't... It's there in a way I didn't expect it to be, I suppose is what I mean. Like there is a main story. There is like... For
something that was so like when people found out it was going to be live service, you just assume that there's going to be like none of that.
It has an awful lot of the repetitive go and do these other missions stuff in there. Like the Penguin wants you to do some jobs again and again and again and whatever.
Right.
And all of the main missions you're really doing do boil down to where is the group of enemies I need to shoot at.
Yeah, here's a cutscene with a superhero, and then they fly away and here's some enemies.
And yeah, they leave A, B, and C point, and you need to go and defend A, B, and C, or attack A, B, and C, or whatever.
Yeah.
But like it is making a sincere attempt at being an adaptation of like the Suicide Squad vibe, where like you know, it's got, I don't think they're necessarily that effective, but like it's trying to do some stuff of like early on, it's like goofy cutscenes of them like fighting as the credits go in like tableaus or whatever, or like
I hated that stuff.
I knew you would, and like I think that it's if you like these characters, you'll enjoy it more than someone who doesn't.
Yeah, I think I realized during the opening sequence, like, I think I've only ever conceptually liked this, you know? Like, if someone just, and you'd never heard of it before, gave you the premise of like, what if the bad guys had to be the good guys? You're like, oh, interesting. And it's never actually been interesting in any of the media except for that one, the Suicide Squad film, which I quite liked.
And well, and it's like, it's just that the stuff it's doing in this has been done so many times in the last 10 years that like, because Guardians of the Galaxy does it too. It's all that sort of stuff where like, you know, them walking slow motion hero style towards the camera, and then someone throws a can at them and they're like, fuck you, Suicide Squad. And like needles, record scratches the thing. Which like, I'm personally a bit sick of now. But there was a point when I wasn't, and if you're still in that point,
Yeah, it's a
then,
neat twist, yeah.
Or if this is the first time experiencing it, yeah.
If you're a big Suicide Squad fan from the comic books and shit, I do think this is actually, in the ways that the Arkham games did, throwing so much of that stuff in there that there's enough of that to enjoy here.
That's
true.
who it's for,
That-
right? It's like taking
Yeah.
that live service thing and just putting a thing on that it assumes you're like a huge DC head that's like...
Not to the point of jumping in right now at full price and all of that, I
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah.
say personally, but like if you're a fan and you want to play a licensed adaptation of these characters, this is not the worst standard of that
Yeah.
type of thing. I think it isn't good if you're a shooter fan.
Yep.
I don't think that this is going to
Yeah.
be the one that you pick out of any of them, because like there are so many. It's not like the Arkham games
No,
where
it's nothing like them.
like it doesn't play anything like them, and then also it's not like, oh, you should play this regardless because it's just a good game.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
a lot more of a caveat, similar to Gotham Knights as well, where it's like if you're really into this world and these characters and all of this stuff, like there's a lot of that in here.
Yeah.
You're seeing Wonder Woman and talking to her and shit, and like
That's true. And I'd never really interacted with Superman media all that much. And this is set in Metropolis. And it's like, oh, yeah, this is not Gotham. This is like, you know, Art Deco. This is not, you know, German Expressionism. This is fucking like massive 1920s, you know, like New York Americana sort of stuff. Like that design and style and aesthetic is there. And it's like really, really strong and not something I'd really seen in anything else.
the Riddler's chucked a bunch of riddles around. You've got
Mr.
Lois
Riddle's
Lane
there.
talking to
Wait,
you
the
over
Rizzler's in this?
You've misheard me. You're not sticking out your gut for no one
Good.
in this
Good new
particular
DC
game.
feeling though.
Superman, when do you finish? When do you finish work, dude? Yeah, like Lois Lane's talking to you. Lex Luthor's in it. You know,
Yeah,
it's got
yeah.
all of these
Yeah.
things that like probably haven't been done well in a video game yet, and they're done at least presentationally pretty decently here. Like they're bantering all the time.
Yep.
They're all like Batman's threatening you over the radio because he's indoctrinated or whatever all the
Right.
time. It's kind of cool to be hunted by Batman. It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a sequel to the Arkham games. So if you're a huge fan of those, this doesn't play anything like them, and I do think it plays significantly like less interestingly.
Yeah.
But it is the sequel to that, and it had me a little bit in a section where you're like going through this like Batman museum
Yeah.
that's in Metropolis, and it's just recounting the plot of the first three games to you, but from a museum perspective.
That
Yeah.
was your favorite bit of it.
Honestly,
was
yes.
reliving the other games.
And then my least favorite part of it was the end of that, where it's like, and then afterwards, Batman came back and joined the Justice League.
Yeah.
And you go to the fucking Justice League museum too.
Yeah, the Hall
early
of
on.
Justice.
And it's like all these holograms of Batman, where obviously this in world is a thing for kids, and he's like, me and my friends at the Justice League, and I hate Batman hearing him say the word friends.
Yeah.
It's not for me. That's not my type of Batman.
Yeah. Wasn't that the Super Friends? Like that was a thing back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the SpongeBob name of them.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's doing all the comic book adaptation stuff like visually well, and I think like has enough of that in its main story stuff that if you're a big fan, you'll get something out of this.
Yeah.
I can't. Maybe I'm way off because I'm not a fan or a hater of it in either direction. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
it's only if you're middle of the line like me where you even think someone would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something wrong with it.
I think people will be pleasantly surprised if they play this game, and they're already interested. Like this is not. Yeah, like you say, this is not for a neutral. This is not for someone who's
That's the main
trying to be
thing.
convinced or wants to be convinced. This should be for someone who is like, I've always liked the Suicide Squad, and I'm curious to see the Arkham story play out in another thing. And I accept that this is a live service, open world, third person shooter.
Yeah.
And
You know?
like exactly like that stuff, I fucking hate the interface and the layout of all of that, and how many
Yeah.
little tiny fucking numbers there are everywhere
Right.
that don't seem to really matter that much, and there's a million different little fucking stats, and after every mission you're spending way too long having to wait for this stupid fucking loot box to open.
Oh, yeah,
Like this missile shoots and it takes forever
Yeah.
to fucking open up. I like all of that element of the game is just a poisonous element to this game.
Yeah.
A poisonous ivy element to this game. I know 70 DC characters.
I haven't been too put off by that or perturbed by it. Maybe because I just I don't know. I probably haven't played quite as much as you have. By the sounds of things.
I think that our tolerance levels, if we could combine them,
yes,
because I'm not hating the writing and stuff in this game to a point where I'm finding it grating. I am finding all of the type of game this is stuff grating.
Right.
And vice versa. It sounds like for you. Soundingly, I nearly said.
But I don't like. I'm never really in the menus that much. Like I really am just like flying around shooting people. I haven't bothered to look into skill trees and shit like that. Although now that you mention it, that has been kind of confusing. Because there's like three skill sections and 4 characters, and you're like, but I'm only literally playing as one. But
and I think that's how you're going to get the most out of this game is if you just don't care about it while you're playing it, which is not
Big
a good
ask
thing
for something that's $100.
But I will say, I reckon I would like it a lot more if it wasn't fucking Captain Boomerang. King Shark I liked in the film that he was in, but it just really comes across as a David Bautista Guardians
Drax.
of the Galaxy guy. Yes,
he's similar to that for sure. I don't know which one came first in real life,
but in terms just the portrayal, it's too close to it for me to enjoy that much. Harley Quinn is like fine. Probably is the one character I would keep from this roster, and has some interesting stuff to draw from and do stories with.
I like that she, as a character in this game, is at the point where she's already been fucked over by the Joker enough to hate him now from the Arkham games. So comes into it with a sort of different point of where you often get Harley Quinn being.
Kind of like I don't know if you ever saw that movie...
A Million Birds Fighting Birds, Margot Robbie.
Yes.
What was that called?
Birds of Prey.
Yeah, that's it. I was close. But then it's got some long Technicolor Dreamcoat name afterwards, right?
It does. Or I think, Anyway, similar space for the character.
Right.
And then Deadshot is not interesting at all.
He's just a soldier guy.
He's a soldier guy.
I've got a daughter.
He's got a daughter. He's rather than... he's like... What if Batman parents didn't die but had daughter and care about daughter? Because he's just like, I got a bunch of gadgets and shit, and I'm at my core a good guy.
But the characters are having enough done with them and are being enough of a focal point that you can say those things about them too.
Yeah.
That's I suppose the thing that I didn't necessarily expect to get out of this in the way that it is doing.
Right.
It has a chunk of it that is that story-based sort of superhero game.
Yeah, totally.
But like, I can't speak to what it feels. I think a lot of the negativity towards it in one area is that when a game presents itself as a live service game, people then go, okay, will you be good for 200 hours?
Yeah.
And this one probably is not. But I think there's a 10-hour in here that if you're a fan of these guys... And you're, if you fucking hate Australians and think they're the dumbest fucks in the world,
Which most people do.
Yeah.
which fair enough. But this, he's bad, man.
It's crazy
He's
that
really
what you're
bad.
saying is like if this Arkham team had have just made this basically as an Arkham game as like a 10-hour story without all the online stuff, this would be good.
And you can almost see the battle internally that must have happened during this
At
game
some
where
stage, yeah.
a bunch of people wanted to make that and thought they were making that.
Yeah.
And then it got like ripped through the wormhole and
Yeah.
stretched into this thing.
Yeah.
Like it's not anywhere near the Arkham games where they were like, I don't give a shit what you think about Batman. This is good.
Well, a product like this is kind of is why something like that Last of Us multiplayer game gets canned internally. You know, like that struggle.
Yeah.
And then this being the resulting product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is why things fall over because it's like we can't please these two different audiences.
No.
And I'm never going to put the time into this game to be able to speak to those elements of it. A lot of other people are.
Yeah.
To the long term, and like if this is your game where you do your dailies and you grind your weeklies and all of that shit.
But then-
also that's not ever fun. for me. So like
exactly,
this
I'm
game
not playing the
couldn't
Division,
have done
you know?
that
Like
well.
I'm not that interested in it. Maybe I would enjoy just running around shooting people in the Division, but I'm not going to be.
I really
as
like
invested.
Destiny as like
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
equivalent of like I think the shooting in that game is so good that the enormous negative aspects of that game I look past in a way that I shouldn't,
Right.
an irresponsible way.
Yeah.
because like it feels good to play, and yeah, this one just doesn't feel at all.
This just
good
feels
in
to
that way
me like
play.
the servers will be shut off by the end of the year. I just that's why I
Yeah.
found it hard to bother. Is like I just don't. I just this everything about this just feels like even like the day of it being even like in advance of it coming out, the big story was that the early access thing hadn't been working for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But then even on the day of launch, you're just already kind of hearing nothing about this
No,
game.
I was
I just
gonna
think it's going to
say-
fade immediately. This
Yeah.
will not be being talked about other than as like a cautionary tale of how you roll these sorts of games out. I just feel like this is not even going to be on people's minds in a month's time.
But I will say when it's on that deep sale that it will be on.
Yeah.
If you're a comic book character fan,
Yeah, yeah.
there's something here for you in a way that I didn't expect there to be. I don't like the Amanda Waller character either. I don't think.
No, I genuinely don't think I like the Suicide Squad concept. But so you played the Avengers game?
Yes.
Like you tried it?
Not heaps of it, but yeah, I played the Guardians of the Galaxy one as well.
Well,
Remember
and that one was well
that one was
received.
single player focused, but the Avengers one.
Does this? Because I can't imagine this being as bad as the Avengers because that came and went and it was shut down and people.
This is the same as the Avengers.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And like that was a brawler type of thing, so
Right.
it was. I think there's a certain level of like, pointing your cursor at something, clicking the button, and having it react is satisfying enough in general that it's hard to make a properly bad shooter.
Yeah, I agree.
This
with that.
is a bad shooter, though.
Yeah.
In those terms, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's not a good one.
no, it functions, but it's like a clicker game or whatever. Like, there's a
Right.
certain thing to it where it doesn't really like the particulars of why it's. If you're a shooter fan, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it functions more than I expected it to from the coverage about it beforehand.
Yeah,
if
I
that
think
makes
you're
sense.
right. I think if you're a Suicide Squad / comic book fan, then this might be a game worth trying.
When this
But-
is $15 or whatever,
Yeah.
you'll get something out of this more than you might expect.
however, it may not live to see that sale.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know how tied this is to having to have active servers and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, a real like from what Rocksteady's done in the past,
Right.
This is a fraction of as quality as that.
Yeah.
From the response to it, though, you're probably going to enjoy it slightly more than you might think.
Yeah, I think so. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
All right.
It's also monetized up the fucking ass and in a bad way. So many costumes and shit that you can buy with the obfuscated currency that's the Mickey Mouse bucks that is like actually illegal in so many places in so many situations.
Yeah.
So
For
it's
good
like,
reason.
how come you're allowed?
Yeah.
Denmark or whoever it is that does this
Yep.
shit, come on.
Yeah. Well, we better leave it there for another episode of Filthy Casuals. Thank you for joining us. Get over to filthycasuals.com.au. You can find the links to everything we have going on. We've got our Patreon. Get on there. Support the show if you
Hey.
enjoy.
But the Persona 3 people are like a Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah.
The way that they
Yeah.
activate their personas.
Oh, yeah. They shoot
Fuck.
themselves in the head with a little special gun.
Sorry, just had to.
It was a real suicide theme this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get on the Patreon. We do a bonus show for you every week. And if you like getting the show for free, please think about supporting us financially.
Yeah.
Throw in a couple of shekels each month.
That's right.
Very much appreciated by us. Get onto the YouTube channel. We've got heaps of videos on there, hundreds and hundreds of the damn things. Us doing Let's Plays, us
Yeah.
doing one-offs, heaps of stuff on there. We've got a few Lethal Company videos on there.
People have
doing
been loving the
recently.
Lethal Company
People
ones.
are loving the company.
They're saying it's the game for us.
Yep.
It's a funny game.
Yep. It's our latest platform that we
Yes.
do this show within.
Yeah, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Lethal Company.
Yes.
Yep. Join us in a game and just run around and listen to us riff.
Uh-huh.
You can get it live. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. And as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals.
What are we, TikTok? Some kind of unalive ourselves squad?